Kahle cluster, you can see that although we are moving, we have got approvals in some of the township applications that we have submitted to the municipality. However, there are still challenges that we are encountering. For example, in terms of the Hlalani Kahle, we are saying it is under state land. A lot has been said on this platform with regards to the issue of state land, and I think is going to be a topic under discussion in the commissions. And then some of the issues is like there was a withdrawal of a general plan due to some properties falling in wetland. I've already indicated that we are not allowed to build structures on wetlands. Moving on, the Emalahleni upgrading of informal settlement continues. Now we've got Empumelelweni cluster, Clarinet cluster. We decided to cluster these informal settlements because as you can see, there are so many of them under Emalahleni municipality, and most of them are category B1. The challenges as well, they vary depending on the project. Those challenges have been, they are there on this presentation. Local municipality, we've got those 4 projects where we are assisting them to upgrade the informal settlement. What is nice about this one is that we've got approvals in terms of the spluma, and then we are currently, the packing of sites was completed in May, and the conditions of establishment are being prepared for approval by the municipality. But obviously, because all these projects, in the end, the ultimate end, people must have title deeds. So if now we having a challenge of state land release, because on most of these projects, they are under state land, which also has got its own processes, it's cumbersome, but we are really trying our level best to assist these municipalities. Moving on, still under Tembisile Hani, like I indicated, even on these 4 ones, we have got the approvals, but what we require now is state land. It goes back to what was said earlier on in this podium, collaboration. If we work together as departments and we don't dwell on our mandates as sectors, I think we can achieve more. I think the reason why we are having some of these challenges is because I say I work for the Department of Human Settlement and my mandate is this. So I don't want to listen to what DMR is doing and so forth and so on. So if we work together, because we are all working for one, I don't think I will be standing here now lamenting on these challenges that we are having. Yeah, that's the same in terms of Tembisile Hani. And then we are also assisting Emalahleni local municipality to develop upgrading plans, because what National says is that if you want to upgrade an informal settlement, that settlement needs to have is also underway. So at least on these ones, I'm really certain that our people will get their title deeds. Moving on, it continues. Like I indicated, there are so many of these projects, but on these ones, because they are under Tembisile Hani local municipality, of which most of the land there belongs to the state or is in the hands of the traditional leadership. So we are saying talks to challenges towards access to land for human settlements. And I think some of the challenges were mentioned here by my previous colleagues. So please pardon me if I will be repeating what has already been said earlier on. We are saying the issues of state land release still remains a major blockage in 90% of our projects, particularly in integrated human settlements projects. And then the insufficient bulk infrastructure, the colleagues have also mentioned it, is a big constraint in all our municipalities, and thus poses a challenge in terms of the servicing of stands. And then we are saying recurring budget cuts. There's issue of finance here. We get money from National Department through the HSDG and the ISOP, which is Informal Settlement Upgrading Grant. And we are
There's a colleague from Human Settlements on the second part. Okay. Are you the one? We are at the point where we are going to prepare ourselves for the panel discussions. I'm going to request the following people to according to my program, let me see. On the bulk infrastructure. Okay, Misa, can you beam Misa's presentation? Which means it's the last presentation for the day, and then we'll go into the panel discussions. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairperson. Afternoon, colleagues. Without any waste of time, when you have been forgotten. Yeah, there are abandoned child. I'm just going to run through the presentation because I'm mindful that we are running out of time. As indicated on your program, my name is Judy Nkosi and I'm from Municipal Infrastructure Support Agency. Those who don't know what MISA stands for. I'm working in the infrastructure financing unit within that institution. So mainly my presentation is going to touch around the issue on how municipalities or how MISA support municipalities on the financing of infrastructure. If you can go to the next slide, I won't be going through the outline. That one is just indicating to you the role of MISA in the high level so that you get an understanding as to how MISA interlinked with the municipalities and how do we derive our mandate in terms of what we are doing to municipalities. So in the main, MISA has been established to support municipalities as it relates to infrastructure development. So mainly we are looking into the whole value chain of infrastructure development, starting from the planning and you're looking into the implementation and also supporting municipalities around the issues on operations and maintenance. So we look into the whole value chain. And just to highlight, we have a national office and also have provincial offices. So most of the provinces, they have MISA, a representative that they are working with. So in most cases, when a municipality requires a support for MISA, they get in touch with the provincial guys, then they get in touch with us so that we can link and see what is it that we can support the municipalities with. If you can go to the next slide. So mainly, I thought this slide is very critical for us if we are talking about financing or funding, because this slide is some study that was done way back in 2009 by World Bank, and they did this for National Treasury just to indicate when we are talking about bulk infrastructure, what is the needs for municipality that is there. And the other graphs, which is a blue bars, unfortunately, it seems like our projector is not doing justice to us. But the one that is on the right hand side, it's just indicating the budgets which are available for municipalities to finance the infrastructure. So in the main, when you look in terms of what is the requirement and you look in terms of what the municipalities are budgeting for, it starts to indicate that there's a gap in terms of the funding. And if we talk about what is happening now, and we look in terms of the fiscals, the economic performance of our country, which started to decline since 2008 because of the recession, then it starts to indicate to us that government on its own, using the conditional grant system that municipalities are getting, will not be able to close that gap that is there. Your soft lending, we have developed a model which we call it private sector participation model, and also we look into pledging of the conditional grant system, and then we have the non-lending options These are the areas around like your budget facility for infrastructure, the one that I will actually look into it when I go into the next slide. And then the other one is around the land-based financing. Dr. Mark was talking about your value capture, land value capture, tax incremental financing. Those are the areas where we do support municipalities on. Okay, then the first one, which is on the private sector participation model. This one it has been endorsed by government to say, let's look into the model that can work for municipalities who cannot access funding because their cash balance doesn't allow them. So we went back and worked together with the private sector, with the banks and some of your DFIs and your MDBs. And we came up with a model that looks into, as a municipality, if you are receiving a conditional grant system, so for example, if you are receiving a MIG allocation, then what are the things that you can do to ensure that you unlock funding from the private sector? So how the model work is that from what you are getting from the national government, we can do a forecasting and say, in the next 5 years to come, as a municipality, this is what you are going to be getting as an allocation. And that is based on the historic allocation which a municipality will have received from the national government. Then based on what the municipality is going to be receiving, we say, at least let's commit 20% of what you are going to be getting as an allocation and use that to unlock money that can actually start to unlock funding to finance strategic projects that will provide the bulk in the municipality. So the one beauty about this kind of a model is that it come in with some additionalities, in the sense that the structure that has been put in place also support municipalities on the areas around the actual implementation if that particular municipality doesn't have the capacity. And another angle is that it can also help on the issues around your operations and maintenance, because if we look in terms of most of the challenges that we are sitting with, is simply because there's a lack of operation and maintenance in municipalities. So that structure can also zoom in and focus on that particular angle. So that is one of the options that we are working with. Then, next slide. Okay, then the other option that we are working with, that we are supporting municipalities with, is on the budget facility for infrastructure. We are working together with National Treasury on this one. And this particular option, it's I will say it's a quasi kind of a grant, because when you get this allocation from the Treasury, there is no expectation for a municipality to pay back the money that you will have received. So you have to utilize the money and ensure that you are going to spend it. Some of the critical areas or key points around the BFI is that the threshold for a project is a 1 billion or 3 billion for a programmatic approach. And the other one is that the project has to be shovel ready. So meaning that if you can receive money today, tomorrow you'll be able to say, I'm going to spend it. And the other key element is that it's supposed to be feeding into the national priority. So those are the three key things when municipalities are applying for this kind of a funding, they have to take into consideration. The next slide, please. So, I think you have jumped. Okay. Yes. So although we have those principles, there are challenges that we have identified, that we have picked up, that municipalities are not actually applying for this funding because there are areas which as government we need to work on them. The first one is that most of the projects that municipalities are having, most especially your small and your medium municipalities, they don't meet the threshold of a 1 billion. So we sit down and say, what are the things that we can do to ensure that we can motivate municipalities to do the submission? Then we thought it's going to be nice if we can also say municipalities can pull together and come up with a program application. So for example, in Nkangala district municipality, all the local municipalities within Nkangala, they can come together and put an application for a wastewater treatment or something within one particular sector. then that can make it up to 3 billion, because we want to deal with the challenge or the risk of the threshold. Then also the other area is around the shovel ready. Most of the projects that you get, we have been submitting a lot of the projects to Treasury, but then they came back declined simply because they are not prepared, they are not shovel ready. And it's a problem because in most of the municipalities, there's no capacity to prepare projects. So that's where in MISA we came in very handy and say, hang on, we want to ensure that municipalities can access this funding. So one of the support that we do provide is to assist municipalities to ensure that they can prepare those projects to a point where they can be getting traction from the application. So that is one other support that we are providing, and it links to the last point. I won't be talking to it because it's the same thing around the project preparation. Next slide. Okay. So the other areas that we are focusing on is areas around your excuse me, around your land-based financing mechanism tools. I just on this one because there are many of them. Your tax incremental financing. Dr. Mark was saying, if you are developing, like if I can give an example, in Gauteng, we have the Gauteng. Because of the virtue of having the Gauteng around, we started to see the development of a lot of areas around the Gauteng. So that on its own, it brings in the development, which in the main increase the taxes of a municipality. So that's hence we call it a tax financing incremental kind of a financing mechanism. But on these kind of tools that I have highlighted there, I specifically wanted to talk on one which is around the development charges. And the reason why I'm talking on this specifically is because recently Treasury has submitted the bill in cabinet, which has been approved. It has gone to parliament now. They are just waiting for the enactment of that legislation, which actually provide for a municipality that they can levy the development charges. I know the SPLUMA make provision for that, but the beauty about this legislation, it start to provide more details around how municipalities they can best do it, because SPLUMA say you can do it, but it doesn't provide like more details on how you go about it. So that legislation also comes with a lot of annexures where it can help municipalities on how they can do the calculation of the development charges depending on the complexity and also the growth of that particular municipality. So we have been supporting some municipalities in terms of developing their policies, because in terms of that new legislation, it's a requirement that if you are going to levy, you have to have a policy as a municipality. So we are helping some of these munis on some of these requirements that will enable them to be doing that. The next slide, please. Okay. Then the other one that we are also looking into, we are working with a lot of donors, your UN organizations, where they have interest to invest in municipalities. Most of the projects which they're actually interested on is around your green and renewable energies. And my mind was just tricked when I was looking into the presentation that was done by Collins Chaban. By the way, I come from Collins Chaban originally, so I was so proud to say. So I was thinking, these are the opportunities where when we are doing this kind of development, we are saying we have to be smart about doing these things. I mean, we have been sitting here without electricity load shedding. So when we are doing this kind of development, it's an opportunity for us to partner with these kind of people where they can come in and say, we are bringing in our investment where we can put in the money so that you can use your sun, your wind, and so on to generate electricity. So that is one key area, one element where we can actually get some kind of opportunities from these kind of arrangements that we are having with these organizations. Last one is around the project preparation support. I have already spoken to that one, that we do support municipalities that require some support in terms of doing the actual project preparation. Let me say this is very critical, because even you're not